Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. All right, we are on our third Sidra, our third Aliyah of this Torah portion of Shelach, which means to send on your behalf. And today's portion is chapter 14 of Numbers, verse 8, going all the way to verse 25. But we're going to just focus on verses 8 and 9, which read, "If Adonai is pleased with us," notice the big if there, if Adonai is pleased with us, then, if and then, remember always the proposition of if and then. So this is conditional. If always means something of condition. If Adonai is pleased with us, then he will bring us into the land and give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Just don't rebel against Adonai, and don't be afraid of this people living in the land. We will eat them up. Their defenses have been taken away from them, and Adonai is with us. Don't be afraid of them. All right, so if Adonai is pleased with us, how do we get the Lord to be pleased with us? Now, please understand, I'm not invoking or I'm not condoning works righteousness or being saved by works. But at the same time, if you do what is pleasing to the Lord, which means if you are obeying His commandments, He is going to be pleased with you. It's no different than a child and his parents. When I got along with my parents is when I obeyed their rules, when I did what they asked me to do. When I lived up to their expectations, they were pleased with me. When I didn't, they were disappointed in me, and sometimes, depending on what I did or didn't do, I got punished. And it's like the law. If you are a law-abiding citizen, you enjoy the benefits of protection under the law. You are protected because you are keeping law. But if you break the law, you move out from under the protection of that law. Just like if you break and enter into a house and it's dark and the house owner can't see who it is. They don't know if it's their son coming in late at night, or they don't know if it's an axe murderer. So they bonk the guy over the head. Well, that guy who gets bonked over the head, who broke and entered, can't sue the guy who bonked him. Why? Because he has brought himself out from under the protection of the law. It was a break and enter. Therefore, he broke the law. Therefore, he does not enjoy the benefits of protection of the law. And the guy bonked him over the head. Hey, serves you right. So it's kind of the same thing here. If Adonai is pleased with us, then he will bring us into the land and give it to us. It seems like a done deal. God will give this to you. A land flowing with milk and honey. Did he not promise this? I mean, that's the whole reason he brought them out of Egypt, is to bring them into the promised land, a land that was not only promised to them, but to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who was before them many, many years, the patriarchs. So it is a promise not necessarily being fulfilled to this generation who came out of Egypt, and they wouldn't benefit from this fulfillment because they would all die in the wilderness, and it's their children that would inherit the land. But it's a promise given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it's a fulfillment of that promise to them that, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are living on through their descendants. So if Adonai is pleased with us, then he will bring us into the land and give it to us. He will give it to us. It's a done deal. It's already a promise, and God is a promise keeper. He will not break his promises. He will give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey, symbolizing prosperity. Just don't rebel against Adonai. Just don't rebel. So there were several rebellions. Things would have been peachy keen and all honky-dory if Adam and Eve didn't eat of the knowledge of the tree and evil. But they rebelled against the only rule that existed at that time. Do not eat of this tree. So they rebelled. Therefore, they took themselves out from under God's law and God's protection. So it says, just don't rebel against Adonai. So they rebelled in the garden. They rebelled in regards to the sin of the golden calf. You shall have no other gods before me. I am the Lord your God. I defeated the pantheon of Egypt. Worship me and only me. There is none beside me. I will not share my glory with another. But they rebelled against God. And therefore they lost the protection of God's blessing. See, Deuteronomy 28 talks about blessings when you obey the law. In other words, God is pleased with you when you do what he says, and therefore you reap the benefits of the blessings of obedience. But on the same token, disobedience means a curse. Disobedience means death. Disobedience means punishment. All right, so it says, just don't rebel against Adonai, and don't be afraid. So don't rebel is the first thing, and don't be afraid. Fear is the opposite of faith. Do you believe that God is going to give you this land? Do you believe that God is all-powerful? Do you believe in this? If so, don't be afraid, because you have faith. You have faith in me. You believe in me. You trust in me. Do not be afraid. So fear is the opposite of faith. In 2 Timothy, it says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Do not be afraid of these people living in the land. We'll eat them up. Their defense has been taken away from them. Their defense, what is their defense? Their defense is their pagan gods. Their defense is they have moved out from under God's universal law for all mankind. Their defense has been taken away. They can't be protected because they are not obeying the law of God. Their defenses have been taken away. So these guys are giants, right? Descendants of the Nephilim. They're strong, they're big, they're bad, they're mighty. They should be able to conquer the Israelites, no problem. But guess what? They live in fortified cities. If they're so big and bad and strong, why do they need walls? Who are they afraid of? Who do they think that they'll conquer them? They don't have confidence in themselves, even though they're giants, because they have to have walls to protect themselves. What a contradiction. Their defense has been taken away from them. Later on, we'll see the walls of Jericho come down. Walls are not a problem for God. Their defense has been taken away, and Adonai is with us. Do not be afraid of them. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom, and God bless.